Welcome to the Visionary Chronicles, a podcast dedicated to uncovering the strategies and insights that drive innovative, disruptive businesses. Join us as we explore the mindsets, cultures, and solutions powering the next generation of industry leaders and creative trailblazers. Whether you're seeking to inject new life into your organization or spark transformative growth, the Visionary Chronicles is your guide to executable, cutting-edge business strategy. Hello and welcome to the Visionary Chronicles. Thank you for being with me today. Always appreciate it. I know your time is valuable, and I hope today's episode will make it well worth your while. I think it will. This is also an extension of content from my latest book, The Visionary Leader, The Success Principles of the World's Greatest Visionaries. And thank you to those that have purchased the book. But I say more importantly, the ones that have reached out to me after purchasing the book and have talked to me about how they've applied the principles in the book to their day-to-day, both professionally and personally. And I am also proud to announce that The Visionary Leader just made Amazon #1 bestseller in the business category list. And again, thank you to all those who supported its launch and success throughout the past several months. Very much appreciated. But again, I take the most pleasure, as most authors do, to when people apply what you wrote in the book to their day-to-day. So that gives me great pleasure to have people that have reached out to me, but also important that those that supported, that I recognize you as well. So thank you so much for that as well. So it's still available. Obviously, it's only been out for a couple months. Still available on Amazon across all book distribution outlets. So please, if you get a chance, I priced the ebook so everybody can access it at $199. So hopefully that works for everyone. If you can't or don't want to purchase the hardcover version. So again, thank you. Today we're going to talk about, again, some of the concepts that I put in the book are really about ideas. And it's really a key principle when you start talking about visionaries. You know, how do they create these great ideas? I often get asked this question because of not only the book, but also through Liquid Mind, the brand strategy firm that I run here in Southern California. You know, how do these great visionaries always seem to have either one of two things, a great idea or an idea at the right time, at the right place, or both? And it is pretty interesting, but I will tell you there is principles to ensuring that you always have the ability to generate these visionary ideas. And I'm going to give you some principles today, not all, but certainly what I think from the book and studying these visionary leaders over the centuries, and literally I've studied them over the centuries, all the way back to Socrates and Jesus, all the way up to today with Abraham Lincoln through Elon Musk and Steve Jobs. So it gives you a really great perspective of generational visionary leaders and the principles that they deployed in order for them to succeed in their life and their journey. So today, this episode is titled The Ideas, the key principles to consistently generating visionary ideas. And that is a word in that title that I'll kind of pull out there that most people, I'm going to say they don't appreciate it, but they maybe don't understand it. Let's put it that way. It's consistently. I'm not talking about one-hit wonders here. I'm talking about consistently generating authentic visionary ideas, ones that are disruptive, ones that are innovative, not just incremental. Incrementalism is not innovation. Innovation is disrupting your industry. And very few are able to do that consistently. So let me go through today a little bit of what this looks like as far as the principles that are involved with doing this. So again, welcome back to Visionary Chronicles. We explore the minds and methods of history's greatest visionaries. Today we'll discuss one of the most crucial aspects of visionary leadership, generating transformative ideas. Today's episode draws on, again, insights from my new book, The Visionary Leader, The Success Principles of the World's greatest Visionaries, which is now on sale. And this book will explore the specific habits and strategies that enable great leaders to generate breakthrough ideas and transform entire industries consistently. And that's a key word again, is consistently. It's not one time. It's consistently generating great ideas. So Leonardo da Vinci, who's one visionary that I profile in my book, once said, "Men of lofty genius sometimes accomplish the most when they work least. For their minds are occupied with their ideas and their perfection of their conceptions, to which they afterwards give form." I think that's a great little Shakespearean quote from Leonardo da Vinci. Again, men of lofty genius sometimes accomplish the most when they work the least. For their minds are occupied with their ideas and the perfection of their conceptions, to which they afterwards give form. It's a great quote because what it does is it really gives you an idea of you don't have to be busy to be great. And what I mean by this is ideas are generated where? In your head. They're generated in the quiet times, 90% of the time, if not 100% of the time. All of the great visionary ideas in my next book is actually going to be the visionary product. And to see how these great visionaries are principled to the method to their madness of how they generate great ideas. And this quote from Leonardo da Vinci is perfect on what their principles are and how they deploy them. So this really captures the core of what we'll explore today. You know, how visionary leaders think differently about ideas and transform those concepts into reality. And many times, and again, I say this over and over again, but I think it's an interesting one because most people can relate to this, is concept car designers have these beautiful designs that sit up on the board and never go anywhere. Well, that's not reality. That's just conceptual thinking, not ideas. So when you look at it, you have to bring these ideas to reality. That's what makes them great. Take them off the board and put them into and commercialize and bring them to reality to your consumer. So what does this visionary mindset look like? Well, what sets visionary leaders apart isn't just their ability to dream big. It's their unique approach to generating, refining, and executing groundbreaking ideas. These leaders, for whatever reason, possess a distinct blend of creativity, strategic thinking, and future-oriented perspective that enables them to see possibilities that others miss. And I call it sometimes future casting. What it really is the ability to see the future and set a vision and a path to executing that vision of what the future is going to be. Most people only look in front of what they want to see. They don't look towards the future because they're comfortable in the present. Again, I'll say most people don't look towards the future because they're comfortable in the present. The future, by design, carries risk, and by design, most people are risk adverse, not visionaries. Visionaries are not risk averse. As a matter of fact, it's a core part of their DNA. So unless you are risk taker, not risk adverse, that's just one step in many that visionary leaders have on achieving greatness. So the foundation of visionary thinking rests on really several characteristics that I look at. And I've kind of pointed out a few here. I've got 5 that I want to give you. The first is they're really open-minded in their exploration of ideas. And visionaries actively seek diverse possibilities and perspectives that nobody thought of, really remaining receptive to unconventional ideas, not conventional ideas. Most people just want to make incremental improvements to great ideas. Others want to blow up the great idea and move on to something that's innovative, not incremental. So they have open-minded exploration, number 1. Number 2 is they're inherently curious. I see this with every visionary I profile in the book. They are curious. They want to know why, and they ask why all the time. Why and how does it work? Why does it work this way? What can we do to improve it? And how do we execute that? So there are really three key principles and questions there on the curiosity factors. They maintain a commitment to continuous learning, staying informed about industry trends and emerging technologies, but they don't use that as a foundation for executing their future. Basically what it is, it's a present tense status quo that they don't want to have, but they understand that it's there only from the perspective of how many leaps and bounds are we going to make beyond our current competition if this is what they're currently looking at. So they have an inherent natural curiosity. Number 3 is they have imagination boundaries. They allow their minds to wander beyond existing limitations, really leveraging creativity to envision novel solutions to problems that people have, pain points that people have. Don't be a solution looking for a problem. Be a problem looking for a solution. That's what too many people do. They make all these great ideas, and I go, well, who asked for this? So unless you are intuitive like Steve Jobs or intuitive like Henry Ford, both profiled in my book, that they ask these questions. Henry Ford asked the question, if I would have asked my customers what they were looking for in a product, they would have said a faster horse. So he knew that they needed to replace the horse because he needed things to be more efficient and more effective. And number 4 is they have a forward-looking perspective. They anticipate future tension and potential disruptions. And they consider these long-term implications as a result of executing their ideas. And number 5 is they have a risk tolerance much, much higher than just ordinary business leaders. They understand that innovation involves calculated risk and accept the failure is inherent in pursuing revolutionary ideas. It's something you have to do. It isn't a question of if, but when you hit a barrier and what you're going to do and making a decision if you're going to take the risk or you're not. These people do. They understand that. There has never been, I can guarantee you this in the Visionary Product, the book, my next book that I'm writing, that 100% of the time, every single product that has been commercialized that's been disruptive has gone through failure after failure after failure. And the poster child of failure is Thomas Edison in inventing the light bulb, where he had 9,999 ways that the light bulb could not be invented. That's a beautiful way of looking at it. How would you look at it? Ask yourself that question after 10 failures. How much resistance do you have to risk? How many times would you have been trying to commercialize that light bulb, knowing what it could potentially do if you did commercialize it? You got to ask yourself that question too and context it. This is a disruptive idea, not an incremental one. So they have risk tolerance. And kind of the key point coming out of this is this empathy factor. You know, it's one that's really often overlooked with visionary idea generation is empathy. And what I mean by that is great visionary leaders don't create in a vacuum. They incorporate the understanding of the consumer needs and the team's needs and aspirations into their thinking process. They can't do it alone. So they need to be empathetic. They cannot be arrogant. They have to be humble. And they have to give credit to others, or it does not work. The empathetic approach ensures that new ideas really address genuine concerns and resonate with their core audience, or it's a failure, even if you did commercialize it. Consider how this empathetic understanding, for example, helped leaders like Steve Jobs anticipate consumer needs they didn't even know they needed. And the iPhone is one. People are perfectly happy with their flip phones, right? I mean, you didn't really need another cell phone. But Steve felt differently, that he could disrupt the industry, both the phone and the music industry. So these visionaries create solutions that genuinely transform industries. So it's an interesting concept when you look at it, this empathy factor and ensuring that you give credit to your team, you're humble, you're not arrogant. All of these things are critical. So what does this visionary toolkit look like? And I call it kind of this toolkit. It's this brain of how you change your thinking, your approach to your work, your approach to your team, and the approach to your business, and how you generate breakthrough ideas. Because I'm sympathetic as I work with leaders of these visionary brands, ones that have been around forever. Fortunately, we work with Nike and Adidas and Puma and all these companies that have had these great revolutionary breakthrough ideas. And what they need to have is this toolkit for generating consistently great ideas. So let's examine a few specific habits, what I call, and actions that enable visionary leaders to create unique ideas consistently. And again, I'll use that word consistently. It isn't not a one-hit wonder process. It is a consistent process of generating revolutionary ideas, ones that people have a passion around but don't know how to execute. And again, Steve is the poster child of this visionary idea and being able to execute it through others, give credit to others, but also understand that one product is not a revolutionary pipeline. And I often talk about this innovation pipeline where you have to have the ability that once you do commercialize an idea, you need to move on to the next because of the supply and demand curve demands it. That you have something on the front end of that innovative curve that early adopters can purchase, and you have something on the late backside of the supply and demand that late adopters can purchase. So these are previous generations. That's where incremental products go. That's where what I call the commodity companies go, if I can use that word, which I use quite frequently because they're not a brand. They're just commodity companies, and nothing against that. They've just chosen not to be a brand, and that's their choice. So what is this foundation building that I'm talking about? I'm going to give you 3 points here on the foundation building, then we'll go into culture creation. So first, on the foundation building, you need to cultivate really a creative mindset inside of your company and your brand. And I say cultivate because it isn't something you're going to walk into the design room. And I've been in many, many design rooms. After heading up product with Oakley and TaylorMade and Adidas and all these different brands, they really had this inside the building, the four walls, this creative mindset inside of the building. You need to maintain openness. You need to embrace diversity of ideas. You can't squash ideas that aren't your ideas. And let relentless curiosity, and I love that word relentless, curiosity, drive exploration of new concepts that you need to be exploring as a company and as a brand and as a leader. Number 2 is understand the landscape. Stay informed about market trends, but don't let it drive your decisions. Customer needs versus wants, and emerging technologies to identify gaps and opportunities. And you only need these because you need to understand the landscape is that customers don't give you the ideas or products they knew that they knew they never needed. They're never going to do that, by the way. You need to come up with, and that's why it's so risky. You don't know if they're going to adopt it. They may not understand it. And that's why Steve said simple is sophisticated. If a customer has to read the instructions on how to operate our computers, it's too damn difficult. That's why he said with the iMac and why it was an amazing success was he said, 1, take it out of the box. Number 2 was plug it in. Number 3 is hit the start button. That's it. Beyond that, he said, it's too damn difficult. Don't make it complicated. So that's understanding the landscape. Number 3 is define a compelling vision, not just a vision, but a compelling vision. And I say that because your team needs to have the passion around it as well. So articulate a clear, passionate vision that serves as the foundation for all your innovative thinking. And number three, or the third category, is culture creation. So when you look at this, foundation building, number one, culture creation, number two, is within the culture creation, you need to foster creative culture building. Empower teams to contribute ideas freely in an inclusive, collaborative environment. But here's the caveat. Keep operations out of the room, keep sales out of the room, and keep marketing out of the room until the design and product team have solidified their vision, number one. Number two, built the concept platform that identifies how you're going to service your industry. Bringing these other functional groups in before that has been completed is a recipe for failure. So don't do it. I say a creative culture. That's fostering it. Is protecting the product and design team to do what they do best first, and then show others how they're going to execute it. Number two is reward innovation. Not enough companies do this. Now this is where I don't care where it is. This could be innovation in sales. This could be innovation in marketing. This could be innovation in accounting. I don't care. When you're a brand, you need to reward any type of innovation that you feel is worthwhile and implemented with inside your company or your brand. So provide recognition and rewards for innovative ideas to motivate and reinforce creativity with your company. And number three, last but not least, the most important thing is think different. Those of you who remember this campaign from Apple was the greatest campaign ever created, is drive mind-storming sessions where idea generators can disrupt their industry without fear of judgment. I'll say this again. Think different. Drive mind-storming sessions where idea generators can disrupt their industry without fear of judgment is key to successfully and authentically generating consistently great ideas. And here's the practical application to doing this, because many times the pushback I get on this is that, yeah, there's a lot of concept car designs, but these things aren't practical. So let's look at the practical application of this to ensure that the ideas you have on the board come off the board, they get commercialized, and they get applied in the environment that you were anticipating for them to be. Number one is embrace barriers. You're going to have them. Don't think you create a great idea and a concept and you commercialize it, that you're not going to come up with barriers once that's complete. Then you got to deal with all the other community, brand, marketing, sales, whatever it may be. View limitations as opportunities for innovation, using constraints to drive creative solutions in your brand. Number two is prototype ideas. You don't always have to commercialize and get things out to retail immediately once you do this. So support for rapid testing through prototypes or minimal viable products is necessary and mandatory. So this could be for consumer products. We do this a lot. Ones that we feel that we need to test market, that's where prototyping ideas is critical. The third and practical application is determine trends. Stay ahead of emerging technologies and explore how innovations can be adapted to products or services. And you'll hear me say a lot about on the product side and innovation is adaptation, which is one of the most key ingredients to successfully finding disruptions in your consumer products. And what I mean by this, and I use an example in my first book, The Visionary Brand, was Nike using support truss bridges to create the Flyknit technology for their shoes. You would think they put a bunch of crap out on the table with a bunch of competitors' shoes and see how we can do things differently. No. What Nike did is they brought their product team out to the Golden Gate Bridge. They brought it out to the environment, to Mother Nature. Many times Mother Nature is the greatest innovator on the planet. She is a disruptor. So see the beauty on what's outside and adapt that to what's inside. So determine trends is really defining things that can disrupt your industry. And, after practical application, we come across this, which I see with many leaders and many brands, is what I call this risk paradox. It's just very interesting to me. And what I mean by this is that people that talk the talk but don't walk the walk. Meaning that, oh yeah, I'm comfortable with risk, let's go for it. Then all of a sudden when they hit one barrier, they get knocked down and they retreat. That's not what I'm talking about on risk. So here's something fascinating about visionary leaders. They're willing to take risk when no one else is, yet they're incredibly strategic about it. They understand that innovation involves venturing into uncharted territories that most of us wouldn't want to venture into. But they don't take blind leaps. Instead, let me give you a few points here. Here's what they do. They'll give you 4 points here. What they do is they view failures as learning opportunities, as Thomas Edison did. Yeah, I think it's crazy. Not everybody's going to do 9,999 experiments. But every, what he called way that it didn't work, which effectively in our terminology is a failure, you view failures as a learning opportunity and you reward failure. How about that one? You don't get pissed off when you have a failure. Reward your team for a great failure because it moves you a step closer towards executing your vision. Number 2 is encourage a culture of experimentation. It follows suit with number 1. You know, a culture of experimentation. A culture is built over a period of time. It isn't something you walk in one day and say, hey, we have a cool culture of experimentation. That's bullshit. It doesn't work that way. You need to be authentic when you talk about a culture of experimentation. And you don't tell people, you show people. Number 3 is you evaluate ideas for both immediate impact and long-term strategic alignment with where your vision is. And number 4 is you assess feasibility and scalability before committing any resources to the program. Now, this is what I talk about with product and design. And the reason that you have product and design before any other resources come in is this 4th one. Assess feasibility and scalability before committing resources. You need to feel comfortable that, yes, this is a great idea. It's a great concept, but where the hell is it going to go? And how are we going to position this with marketing and sales? Does it align with the brand? And does it align with our retail distribution? So this balanced approach to risk is what separates the true visionaries from what I call the mere dreamers, those that just dream and never do anything. And then there's the communication bridge that you'll face in creating great ideas. Having great ideas isn't enough these days. Visionary leaders must communicate these concepts clearly and convincingly to gain buy-in from their teams. They become master storytellers like Steve Jobs did. They build passion around the vision, using narrative techniques to make complex ideas relatable and memorable. Now, I think we've all been in meetings where we have somebody standing up there trying to convey a vision with a bunch of jarbled words that we don't know what he or she is saying. That's not what I'm talking about. When you look at Steve, and I'll use the iPod as an example, where he said 1,000 songs in your pocket. How beautiful is that? People can relate to that, and it's memorable. Just think of that story when you're trying to convey your vision of a great idea to somebody versus telling them all this technical jargon that they don't really give a shit about. So this communication skill bridges the gap between vision and execution. And there's also this legacy approach, building for the future. You know, perhaps, I'm going to say most importantly, but certainly important, is visionary leaders think beyond their own tenure. This is where Steve's legacy of Apple, he left them an innovation pipeline that lasted incredibly over 15, 20 years now. And they're finally coming to the end of Steve's wave. And you're seeing this in their products. I'll tell you, I'm an Apple shareholder, but I'm beyond frustrated. Can they just figure out Siri? And when I say something that she doesn't keep asking me back, she can't communicate. It's frustrating. So all they have left is the iPhone. I'm not saying it's not a great product, but you got to move on to something else. So it's creating this legacy beyond their own tenure at their role. They focus on creating sustainable systems and cultures that will continue generating ideas long after they're gone. And it's not just ideas, but it involves team development, empowerment, assembling a passionate, diverse team that's aligned with the vision, transformative leadership, inspiring teams to exceed expectations and embrace, really, disruptive thinking, and delegation, giving teams the autonomy, let's say, to contribute meaningful to the execution process of the vision as a whole. They have their signature on the execution and the completion of it, and they always will. And you have a systematic approach. You have a measurement. You have KPIs. You have feedback loops. You have persistence. You're approaching problems as problem-solving opportunities. And you have this legacy planning as a leader. You're embedding your culture into a brand and company, so you never have a shortage of people wanting to work for your brand, even when the visionary's gone, because of his legacy or she's legacy. And you have succession planning, you have mentorship programs in place. So as I close on this, the art of generating visionary ideas isn't just the idea itself. Understand it's a learnable set of practices and mindsets. How often I've been on the whiteboard with companies and with leaders of companies and brands that I tell you, I just say, well, how do you generate visionary ideas? And all I hear is this process mentality. And I said, that's just a piece of generating these ideas. I said, it's a cultural mindset as well. It's a set of practices and mindsets. From cultivating curiosity to embracing empathy, taking calculated risks, to building a lasting culture. These leaders follow patterns we can study and apply. It's just so few people do. And I don't think it's a lack of wanting to. I just think it's a lack of not understanding what it takes. So that's what I try to do in the Visionary Leader and the Visionary Brand and the upcoming book, The Visionary Product, which will probably be another year or so. Those are always a labor of love. But, the key insight is that visionary idea creation isn't a solo act. And I see many leaders as well that aren't humble, that refuse to give credit. And they're a miserable failure, both internally and externally. They feel like they're a great leader, but they're truly not. It's a collaborative, iterative process that involves teams, embraces failures as learning, and always keeping one eye on the future. So as we've seen in companies, and I've talked about with Apple, Steve Jobs, vision continues to influence their innovation. And it's not that they necessarily have it. Think of the beautiful culture Steve built into Apple. They didn't really have it to innovate. They had this pipeline to serve for 15 years. And it's this passing visionary ideas are those that create sustainable cultures of creativity and innovation in brands and companies. So as we wrap up this episode, I really challenge you to think and to apply one element that I've talked about today as this process and key principle to generating consistently great ideas to your own work or organization, whatever happens to be, in whatever role you're in. And whether it's cultivating more curiosity, embracing a constraint as an opportunity, that could be one as well, where they see a barrier and they need to overcome it. It's not allowing you to commercialize great ideas. That's also something you need to be aware of. Or simply asking better questions about the future of the company and where you're going. So these are all things to ask yourself on this process. How close are you to having this in place? So challenge yourself on these. And then on the next Visionary Chronicles, we'll explore a little bit deeper what visionary leaders, how they translate these breakthrough ideas into actionable strategies for your company and your brand. So until then, keep questioning, keep dreaming. Remember, the future belongs to those who can see it clearly today. And if this episode, I always say, if this episode resonated with you, really, I encourage you to grab a copy of The Visionary Leader, The Success Principles of the World's Greatest Visionaries. It's available now, wherever books are sold. And so it's really a perfect companion to what I talk about here. I mean, I love the hard copy, but I know I get many readers that love the ebook. And also to let you know, we just released the audiobook version of The Visionary Leader, and the Visionary brand is coming out next week. So we have both of those available for those of you who are in the car, and I know there's many of them out here in Southern California. So we wanted to make sure that we address that issue as well, that pain point for people that are stuck in the cars, that we have the audiobook version available as well. So it's a perfect companion if you're looking to kind of reignite that purpose in yourself and your company, or lead with more, let's just say, clarity in this real complex world. And I get it, it's complex. And a thank you to the Visionary Chronicles podcast listeners. The ebook's still at $199. I decided to keep it there because we got a lot of great feedback on people that downloaded the ebook and appreciated the fact that it was still $1.99. I can't get a burger for that or anything for $1.99 anymore, so we kept it there. In this book, The Visionary Leader is really a culmination of decades of research, and experiences and real-world insights with brands that I've been with, and Liquid Mind and the visionaries that I've had. And I've studied these leaders for generations: Steve Jobs, Leonardo da Vinci, Elon Musk, truly visionary leaders. And so when you get the book, I always reach out and say, hey, if there's a question you might have, or maybe you just give me a feedback or review it on Amazon, all of those are appreciated. Not for me personally, but it is for those that maybe need the help and don't have access to the book or don't know the book is there. It just extends our reach in providing this information to those leaders that want to become visionary, or at least start on the path to becoming visionary. So your support means the world to me, and I genuinely mean that. And your purchase goes a long way in helping us spread that vision even further. So the Visionary Chronicles, again, where the future is created for those bold enough to shape it. So until next time, again, keep innovating, keep leading, and keep shaping the future. And thank you for your continued support as always. And I look forward to hearing from you soon. Stay true, stay authentic, be different, and be great. And enjoy the journey along the way. Until the next Visionary Chronicles, have a great day.